Hey, Walter Sorrells back with another Folder Friday. Folder Friday? What is that? Never done one of those before. Today, I'm going to be doing something new. I'm super excited about this. This is something totally different that I'll be doing, and that's why I'm not wearing my blue shirt. For those of you who've been following me for almost 10 years now, almost every single video I wear this blue shirt, and I wanted to do something completely different. So, no blue shirt today, kind of a signal that this whole thing that is that I'm going to be taking off on now is something completely different. Longtime fans of this channel have been asking me to make a folding knife for years. Well, guys, it's finally here. Sort of. I can't tell you how stoked I am about this. When I started Tactics Armory a few years back, I guess it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I'd been making knives for almost 15 years before that. And so I knew that ultimately I was going to be making a folding knife. That's where this was all headed. Tactics Armory's been all about fixed blade knives, and I'm going to continue to make those. But I wanted to add to that lineup because most people, let's face it, don't carry a fixed blade knife day to day. I can tell you why I think it's a great idea to carry a fixed blade, but let's face it, there are obstacles to doing it, and most people carry a folder. So I always knew from the very beginning of working on my Tactics Armory project that I was going to land in folding knife world eventually. So this is a prototype of a knife that I've been working on almost 8 months now, and it's still nowhere near ready to bring to the market. But what I wanted to do in this series is to kind of pull back the curtain on what I do as a knife maker on a day-to-day basis, and kind of give you a flavor of the challenges and the things that I'm running into as I develop a knife and start to manufacture it and bring it to market. So I'm starting with something that should obviously be on a scrap heap, and ultimately I'm going to be moving to something that hopefully is going to be, really at the top of the food chain in terms of quality. I'm showing you this picture of this really messed up knife, and obviously, this right here has moved well beyond that stage. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that when you see somebody making a really nice knife on YouTube, most of the time there's just an enormous amount of stuff that's not shown. All that work that went into learning the craft, all the work that goes in between the little jump cuts that makes it look like it's really easy to make a knife. There's a lot of stuff behind that. So that's what this series is going to be about. So one of the things that I think is intimidating to people when they get started making anything, whether it's knives or anything else, is that they see people who are really good, really accomplished, and they feel like, oh, I'm falling short of that. But the truth is that behind, all success is just an enormous amount of failure. So every time you see somebody scoring in the NFL, that's not the story of their lives. The story of their lives is push-ups. The story of their lives is, endless blocking drills, whatever it is. And so what we're going to do in this series is to look behind, the finished product and that sort of polished process that I show you on a lot of my videos, and, show you kind of what goes into that process of trying to make something really, really good. You're going to be able to follow me on this journey from really just a very basic idea to this scrap heap looking knife to something that ultimately is going to be, really a top of the food chain knife. But we're not there yet. So, I hope you guys will be interested in kind of following along and seeing how this process works for me. On any given day, I'll be talking about tools, techniques, fixtures, CNC, machining, knife design, CAD, the business of knife making, maybe my knife making philosophy, just any number of things. And hopefully in kind of seeing how I go about doing what I do, you'll be able to pull out stuff that'll be interesting for you and useful to you, whether you're a fan of knives or somebody who wants to actually, get out in the shop and make them. So just a little background on the kind of knife that I'm working on here. Now you saw that shot up at the beginning of this video, and it might amaze you to hear this, but it literally took me 8 months to get from the initial idea to that, terrible looking piece of junk. And just in case, you're watching me for the first time, I'm a professional knife maker. I'm not just some dude who decided randomly out of the blue that I was going to make a knife. So I've made folding knives in the past as one-off projects, but my main thing is fixed blade knives, and so I don't really come into this as a folding knife guru. So there's going to be a learning curve for me, and it's not just a learning curve about how to make a good folding knife, but how I can actually produce that and do it efficiently enough that I can, put food on the table for my family doing it. So I'm a huge believer that you can sit around doing research and you can think about stuff and you can plan, but at a certain point, you just got to jump in there and do something. So the kind of whole strategy behind this knife, the design philosophy, and the way that I'm going to be going about refining it and bringing it, to something that I'm actually willing to put my name on and put out in the marketplace. It's fail fast, fail cheap. That's the whole strategy here. And so that's kind of what this video series is going to be about, is watching me go through the process of learning something, testing things out, trying new approaches, and slowly bringing something from this raw idea to something that's really going to be good. In a future video, I'm going to get into some of the choices that I made about this knife, but the most important thing is that I want to be able to use this as a test bed for learning. Ultimately, I'm going to be making more knives, and I want to learn as much in the process of making this knife so that, as I move forward, I can compress the amount of time that it takes to design something and, the time that it takes me to sort of tool up to make the thing. But I also wanted this knife to be flexible enough in terms of its design. If you look at the design, even this simple little knife that I've got right here, this one is more or less functional right now, but it's extremely plain, extremely simple, nothing flashy about it, and that's by design. What I'm aiming to do ultimately is to have a knife that I can come up with refinements in terms of the design, that I can use different kinds of materials. The underlying strategy of this design is that I want as much flexibility as possible to experiment and problem solve. And if you start out trying to do something that's really ambitious, if this were, let's say, a titanium frame lock, every time I screw something up, then I'm going to have to go back and scrap a really expensive part. The material's expensive, it's very slow to machine, and so the lessons that I would learn would be more expensive and slower, whereas when I'm starting with something that I can make the frame or the scales out of Delrin plastic or micarta, then I can kind of climb up the ladder of expense and time and produce something quicker and learn my lessons faster. Fail fast, fail cheap. So I hope you'll follow me along with this journey. Most of my videos in the past have been demonstrating things. Obviously, I'm going to be continuing to make those kind of videos. But a lot of what this series is going to be about is discovery, failure, watching me figure out stuff as I go instead of just summarizing things that I already know how to do really well. I hope you'll join me on this ride, and see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. If you feel like you got something out of this video, don't forget to subscribe. Also, click on the link to Patreon for a great way to give back to the channel. Plus, check me out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Links in the description. If you want something sharp and pointy, maybe a gift for yourself or one of the cooler people in your life, check out my Tactics Armory website and pick up one of our tactical or outdoor knives. And finally, if you want to learn to make Hamones or Japanese swords, check out WalterSorrellsBlades.com, where you can find videos about how I make Hamones, as well as forging, mounting, polishing, and fittings for Japanese swords. Thanks, and see you soon. Hey, Walter Sorrells back with another Friday folder Friday.